Is minimalism eco-friendlier? I read this really good blog by The Plain Simple Life, and she says minimalists don't necessarily focus on being environmentally positive. They may
No.
focus more on living a simple life, which I think is what we've seen, with
Mhm.
less clutter and less stress. Hi, Kat.
Hi, Tiffany. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm on the first day of my period, so
Oh, no.
I was like, should I share this? Whatever.
Yeah, let's share. It's fine.
So I'm very sleepy, but
Yeah.
other
it's
than
okay.
that, things are good. So
That, sometimes I don't know. I probably shouldn't go off on my feminist rant about how we should get time off for periods, because I know that's a contentious matter, but man,
man
would it
alive
be nice.
is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Man is right.
Woman, really. Let's be
Woman,
honest.
truthfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even though I'm tired, I'm still super excited about this episode because, as I mentioned at the end of last week's episode, we're talking about minimalism, and I wanted to explore the sustainability of minimalism because I think a lot of people talk about it. And if you don't
Yeah.
know what it is, that's okay. I explain it. But they talk about it as if it is automatically more sustainable. And
Ooh.
the things, I don't know. I just found I'm shitting more. So I'm going to shit on it a little bit, but I'm shitting more on one particular subset of minimalism. And I came into it just surprised me because I came into it very open-minded and actually appreciating minimalism for a lot of things, and I still do, and yet.
And yet.
So, we can't talk about minimalism without talking about the minimalists.
Okay.
Do you know
There's a
these people?
movement. No, okay. Possibly.
Okay. I almost hope that you don't, but you probably maybe do. So, they are two guys named Joshua Fields Milburn is one, and Ryan Nicodemus is the other. They're by far and away the most famous and most influential minimalists out there at the moment. They have an Emmy-nominated documentary on Netflix. It's called Minimalism. Have you seen it?
Okay. No, I haven't.
Okay, because
I
I
didn't
had.
I didn't know it was too I thought minimalism was like a worldwide phenomenon, but it
It
can be attributed to two guys?
No.
Okay.
No. So I'm not saying that they invented it,
Okay.
but they are the most influential people who are shouting the gospel of minimalism at the
Okay.
moment.
Evangelical minimalists.
One, you have no idea how accurate that
Oh my
is.
gosh.
Okay. Yes. So because my next bullet point is that they remind me of megachurch pastors.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense.
And I don't care if you go to church or whatever, but don't preach at me. That's how I feel.
I'm with you on
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so
Don't tell me how to be.
Exactly. So I'm going to start with a tidbit and then dive into it after I cite my sources. So, I went into this with a completely open mind. I had watched their documentary a couple of years ago and I really liked it because they were basically just talking about how minimalism helped them, and I don't know, I thought it was a really inspiring documentary.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if something's changed or if I've changed or whatever, but I listened to the most recent episode as of August 2023 when we're recording this of the Minimalist podcast,
Oh boy.
which is wildly popular. And the most recent episode I thought was really appropriate for the topic. So they were answering a listener question about the Buy Nothing movement.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. And caveat, little side note, the Buy Nothing movement, and I'll get into it a little bit more. We've talked about it some, but it started with an environmental focus. The
Right.
minimalists Did not. So that's just a sort of laying the groundwork. But it was Joshua, his response just went off the rails to the point that I was
Really?
like, yes, I was just like, what is happening? And I'm going to give you a little tidbit of it right now.
Okay.
So it was Joshua and his co-host TK Coleman. They started with a wild analysis of the book title, The Buy Nothing, that the two founders wrote.
Okay.
The book title is called The Buy Nothing, Get Everything Plan. Discover the
Okay.
joy of spending less, sharing more, and living generously.
Oh, I can already see where they're going to have a problem with this.
It all sounds lovely to me, but
Yeah.
Joshua says, quote, I want to give you a warning that binary thinking often leads to detrimental outcomes, inharmonious outcomes. Buy nothing, get everything, when taken literally, means one thing, but when we take it as a figurative stance or a new disposition on life, can mean something completely different.
Okay.
His co-host TK says, when taken really literally, it's scary. It's like, man, I didn't even pay for this stuff, and now I still got to figure out what I'm going to do with it. Then
Okay.
Joshua says, buy nothing. You can even take that literally. Can I go out and buy something called nothing?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wait a minute. And how much does nothing cost? And
Oh
if
my
you
gosh.
buy nothing and you get everything, maybe I didn't want everything. But,
Okay.
and then he says, finishes it out. But that is not the spirit of this book.
Okay. So, okay.
And
He's just,
neither of them had read the book, by the way. So they were answering a listener question about this movement, about this book, and they had not even read the book. They were just really spitballing. And I was so lost and immediately put off by
yeah, that sounds like some religious hooey. Like,
it.
well,
Does.
we don't like this threat to our way of life, which is, I don't know. Well, we haven't really discussed what minimalism is, but I'm guessing they don't like the idea of more stuff, period. Right?
I
And a
think
buy,
that's it.
yeah, a buy nothing group would be all about more stuff. But
Kind of, but not
it's
really.
not. I know that's a thing about, I mean,
That's
I
what's
haven't read
so
the book either.
frustrating.
Yeah, the premise of buy nothing is don't throw stuff away, give it to somebody who could use it.
Yes. And don't buy new stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't understand.
Which seems
Yeah,
like it would be minimalism's best friend.
exactly. That's why I'm so confused.
But religions can't have best friends because if
Right.
they're not right 100%,
That's
then
exactly what's happening.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So now I want to answer, is the lifestyle advertised by the minimalists sustainable?
Okay.
We're going to find out.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we're going to compare them to the Buy Nothing Project and also Swedish death cleaning. I looked
Oh my
into that a
gosh.
little bit. Yeah.
There's so much in this episode.
Yeah. I had to like cut down some because I didn't want it to be 1,000 years long. But
Well, okay.
yeah, I wanted to cover all that stuff because it's like kind of all encompassing minimalism because there are 1 million ways you can go about it. So,
Well, unless you're these hosts who think that
exactly.
they have the
Yeah.
gospel on.
Yeah. You are going to just crap your pants again. No, I'm just kidding.
At the savings.
No. At the absurdity.
At
Okay.
the absurdity.
Okay. So, my sources again, the Buy Nothing, Get Everything Plan book, the Minimalist podcast, obviously. And I also unfortunately gave them my email and downloaded one of their books,
You
like
should
an
have given them
ebook.
a fake email. Oh man.
Well, I wanted to read. I had to know what they said. So, because I didn't
Okay,
want
fair.
to accuse them of something without really knowing.
Unlike them.
I wanted to be the better woman. So,
Yes, be the better woman.
so
Appreciate that.
there was a really good article on Medium by this guy named Mike Grindle. It's called The Commodification of Minimalism. And Gia Tolentino writes for The New Yorker, and she wrote a couple years ago, The Pitfalls and Potential of New Minimalism.
Mm-hmm.
Then I looked into a couple of studies. So the International Journal of Cognitive Therapy study, there was an environment and behavior study on office clutter. JSTOR Daily talks about hoarding disorder. So I talk about hoarding a little bit also
Okay. Yeah.
because it's obviously the, supposed opposite. The Plain Simple Life has a blog on eco minimalism. And there was also an NIH study on hoarding disorder.
Ooh. Yeah.
And then I found an eco minimalist on YouTube named Shell Bisley. It's spelled very confusingly, so I will link it. But she's got some really cool, really good videos. So
Okay. Cool.
and then finally, one source on Swedish death cleaning from the Washington Post.
Cool.
So, what is minimalism and why is it interesting? Well, first, it is popular AF.
Yeah.
So, the Minimalist podcast has over 100 million downloads.
Oh my gosh.
Their first Netflix documentary, Minimalism, has over 80 million views. And, Marie Kondo is kind of like in that vein too, and she's incredibly influential. She's obviously isn't associated with them, and I have completely different feelings about her. But and to be clear, we're talking about new minimalism. This is something that that's sort of how it's been defined, because the idea of living with less has been around for thousands of years. This is not new.
I mean, we're talking vow of poverty, the monks.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So
that, yeah.
If you want like a definition, this might help you understand why this actually was like quite hard to research, because Mike Grindle, the Medium article, gives a really good definition. Sometimes minimalism is framed as a reaction to consumerism. Other times it's more about objects, where we keep them, how they affect our moods, whether they spark joy. On other occasions, minimalism is presented as a kind of productivity hack, as if it were a secret barrier between the ultra-rich and the disorganized masses.
Right. Okay.
Which I love that quote.
Yeah. Ugh.
So that's why it's very difficult.
Office. Yeah.
Yes. And so some people say, like, if one comes in, one goes out. So if you buy something, you have to get rid of something. I think
that's a big closet thing people do. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I buy a new dress, I have to get rid of an old one.
Yeah, I don't do that, but
I don't either. Okay. I'm not a minimalist, I think.
People do that. Yeah. So my YouTube algorithm is chock full of this stuff, and I'm realizing how toxic it might be, actually, because it's just white-walled, sparsely furnished homes, decluttering or purging videos. Purging, that's the other thing. That term is all over the place. The minimalists use it.
Disorder term.
Yes.
Purging.
And it's everywhere. Yeah. And I devour this content, and I'm realizing maybe I shouldn't, or at least less.
Well, does it make you feel bad? Because that's the thing.
Yeah, totally. It makes me feel like my house is not even remotely good enough.
Right. Minimalism is the new thin. You can never be thin enough.
I think so. You can never have too few things. Like, there's one woman, I don't remember her name on YouTube, but I don't actually follow her. She just popped up because that's my algorithm. And she has rooms with like one piece of furniture, and she's a mom. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, holy shit balls. Like, I'm doing something very wrong.
It's like people who, I don't know. That's like, is your house staged for sale, or do you live there?
Right.
I don't
know. I mean, in her mind, she lives there. She just has 4 things, I don't know. It's extreme. It's really extreme.
I mean, it is like the Fight Club thing. The things you own end up owning you, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's the idea. And everybody who's really extreme about it says that it's made them happier, and I'm not saying they're wrong. So
no, I do know that, like, when I have more space, like, your mind is better. Like, when there's less, I'm less, like, the closet behind me that should be my podcasting studio is just chock full of like stuff I don't know how to organize, and it gives me a anxiety.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into a little bit of that when we talk about hoarding disorder.
Okay,
but okay. So that's like new minimalism. Were you going to say something?
Well, I'm just musing. I know, just to make
No,
this
I love it.
longer.
That's why I was so excited to.
Well, I was talking with someone about how I kind of romanticize a vow of poverty. Like,
You have said that actually on the podcast before.
yeah, I find it very like, yeah, don't need more stuff, don't need more money. Like, my life is about the relationships we have, not the accumulation of things. And but that's not what minimalism is. New
No,
minimalism
not at all.
is a show of display of wealth into
In
itself.
this sense, I'm trying to think. It can be.
Yeah,
I don't think it
it's a
always
status
is.
symbol.
Total. Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. I don't
Which,
necessarily. Well, yeah. I guess everything's about wealth in the end, right?
well, in our society, yeah.
Yes.
Which is why I
So,
idolize poverty. Not poverty. I don't
yeah.
idolize
Well,
poverty. The choice to live with less, I admire, but not if it's to look better to the Joneses or
yeah.
something.
And I was going to say, like, it takes privilege
Yes.
to be able to not be forced into a situation where you have to live with less.
Right.
Like, that's a
Yeah.
very different scenario.
Yeah. It's like those lists of things that are cool if you're rich, but not if you're poor. And it's like doing drugs in public, drinking in public,
Yes.
having nothing in your house. Cool if you're
Yes.
rich, not if you're poor.
Oh my god, it's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a vow of poverty.
It's
People who are
totally.
impoverished certainly wouldn't
Yeah.
wish that on
Yeah.
anyone
No,
else.
exactly. And yeah. And for me, it's the vow of poverty is if you, well, and that gets into like extreme altruism, which is something I'm very interested in, but it like you have enough. And so what you do with your extra is you
Mhm.
give it to people who need it,
Right.
like I believe in that.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
but yeah, that's different than just being a minimalist. Okay. Anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I'll get into it a little bit because I found a lot of differences in the mentality of the other options, like, I'm trying to think where I get into that a little bit later where I compare them, but,
Okay.
I do have a little bit about the Buy Nothing project and how it's different than what the minimalists are selling. So
Okay. Which is so funny. Minimalists are selling. You just said it. What would
I
you buy?
know, right?
It's buying nothing,
They
right? What
are
is nothing and
though.
how much does it cost?
They
Yeah.
are 1,000. I will tell you even more how they're selling it, and it's really
Oh,
frustrating. So,
oh, I'm already
I
fired
know,
up.
I know, I know, I know. I'm glad. I knew you would be. So, the Buy Nothing project focuses on community, and they focus on environmental impact. So, it was started by two friends named Liesl Clark and Rebecca Rockefeller after they
Okay.
discovered that their local beach was littered with plastic and other trash.
Hmm.
So they just created one Buy Nothing group in their area, and now today they have 7,000 of them or more than 7,000. And they're basically groups that you can sign in. You can join on Facebook. They're only on Facebook, right?
As far as I know,
Yeah, I think
yes.
they are. And people basically swap items that they no longer find useful, and there's never a charge, there's never any expectations, and it's just because you want to give it away and you want somebody else to find use out of it. And the biggest takeaway from their book is this idea of refusing. So they say that's what's missing in the reduce, reuse, recycle is refusing to buy stuff or refusing. I've heard other people say like refusing to take plastic silverware from a fast food place or refusing to consume in whatever way that means.
Okay.
And they even say themselves, it's not an exercise in perfection, self denial, or abnegation. There's no way to fail at the Buy Nothing movement. It's meant to
Right.
be explored in your life. And they found one thing they found to be true was that being knit into a local web of sharing in which we play a vital role is more fulfilling than the lonely hoarding of our stuff for our private use.
Oh,
And I would argue the lonely lack of stuff
yes, the
for our
loneliness of
private use.
yes, yes. Okay, I agree with you.
Um,
Well, no, just the general loss of community that we have. This is the cat on a soapbox, but in a world where everything is catered to you individually, your Facebook algorithm, your
mhm.
TV shows, everything is catered directly to you, and we have lost the sense of community. And so it's like all this stuff you buy is just so. uncommunity minded, even if it's minimalist. Yeah.
Yes.
This the loneliness of our current cultural status, and that I love the Buy Nothing group for that.
Yes. And the funny thing is you never know what people will want until you offer it.
I
So
know.
they won't let me on my local Buy Nothing group because I don't know, my address doesn't fit with any of them, but I'm on Free Cycle and our Free Cycle is really active. And I saw somebody snatch up 30 paper bags
Yeah.
that,
Yes.
quickly.
This is exactly one woman's trash is another woman's treasure.
It is so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into a little bit more about that their response because it just gets more frustrating, but
Okay. Let me know when there's something dramatic because I might have the right sound effect for it.
perfect. Okay. But first, I wanted to look at minimalism a little bit in the same way as we look at other systems that
Okay.
we've
Yeah.
analyzed. So, what is it? Is it easy to accomplish? Is my next question.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I have to focus on the minimalists because I have to focus on something, right? And they're just
Because
so
yeah,
big.
it's such an amorphous.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. So they have a 30-day minimalism game. That's what they call it,
Okay.
where you get rid of it's basically like a challenge. And you get rid of one thing on the first day of the month, two things on the second day, three things on the third, so forth and so on. They
Okay.
say whether you donate, sell, or trash your excess, every material possession must be out of your house and out of your life by midnight each day.
Okay.
So, when we're talking solely about ease, that takes a ton of time and energy.
You need a month off to do that. Like
Yes,
that's not just coming home from work and you have an hour and after the kids asleep.
exactly.
Yeah.
High pressure, and it prioritizes getting stuff out rather than getting stuff out responsibly.
Okay. Fair, which we are not into for the record.
Right. So that's the big difference between the minimalists and the Buy Nothing Project. Because the Buy Nothing Project is very much about make sure your stuff doesn't end up in the landfill or on the beaches
Exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So they are also, from what I could gather, they're very contradictory and hard to follow. So let's take a little trip back to that listener question in the
Okay.
podcast episode.
Okay.
So the original listener said, she said, I heard about the Buy Nothing movement. I like it, but I have one problem. In order to fix things and in order for you to get someone else's stuff, now you're keeping stuff. It goes back to how you guys say the just in case items.
Yep.
I'm going to get into the just in case items in a
I know
minute.
exactly what they are because it's all my Halloween costumes.
Yes. I mean, you can kind of guess, right? It's like you're keeping them just in case. But so, okay, Joshua's response. Again, he hasn't read the Buy Nothing book, but he's very familiar with Buy Nothing groups. And then I have so much sass right now, but I don't even care. I'm only using what he said himself. Then he proceeded to advertise his own minimalist Facebook groups, I think they're Facebook, as if they were the same, and they are not.
No.
These minimalist groups are like meetups. They have no similarity whatsoever, but he advertised them anyway, as if, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So then he talks about the spiel about the inharmonious outcomes. Then he says that their version of minimalism is not prescriptive. And he compares it to Buy Nothing, where I think he did a Google search and he found a list of 50 items you never need to buy, like Ziploc bags and paper towels. He says, quote, I'm already out then because I buy those things. And I don't think you're evil if you use those things.
Okay.
No one said you were.
No. Yeah, the Buy Nothing group is all about like whatever you can do, you know, not like, okay,
Yes.
wow, he's totally he's just villainizing it
Yes.
for his
But
own
then at the
gain.
next breath, he'll say it's like, okay, yeah, he says he likes it and he likes them, but then he says all this other stuff. So he doesn't like, it's just crazy. And then I think it was either him or TK, his or co-host, who says you're not allowed to buy. It's like nobody says you're not allowed, just that you don't
No.
need them.
Yeah.
And then, so keep in mind, they just said that their minimalism is not prescriptive, and then almost the next breath, they're pushing their minimalist rule book.
Yeah.
That's the one I
Disgusting.
downloaded.
Yeah. There's a rule book.
And
It's not prescriptive at all.
it's a rule book,
Sure.
16 rules.
Oh my God.
And in the rule book, it says rules can be arbitrary, restrictive, boring, but they are often helpful when we hope to make a change. So I'm like, what are you doing if you're making rules and prescriptions are the same goddamn thing?
Right.
So, side note, his co-host TK Coleman is much more reasonable toward the end. So I'm
Okay.
not throwing him under the same bus. But
Okay.
I sat for days with this because I was like, how do I process all of this? And I want to give him grace. I'm angry, but I want to give him some grace because I think he got defensive. And I see this mostly in privileged men. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
not sorry, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of when I used to mention in college, I went through a vegetarian phase. And I
Right.
used to mention to some guys, this happened multiple times, that just say that I was a vegetarian.
Right.
And they would actually yell at me about why they eat meat. And I was like, I didn't say shit about what you're doing. All I said was
Right. This is what I do. Yeah.
yes. And they would yell, actively yell at me.
Oh my
And it's like,
God.
no one's attacking you. Just shut up. Like,
Right.
so either he thinks of Buy Nothing as a competitor, which, like you said, probably,
Yeah.
or he feels guilty about his lack of thinking of the sustainability of his prescriptions.
Well, and it's just this like threat that if anybody else is doing something, we can't collaborate. We have to be on top. You know,
I hate it
I have to be
so
there. It's
much.
either my way or the highway. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I can only imagine the women who made the Buy Nothing project listening to that episode and being like, "What the fuck? Like, what?"
Seriously. Yeah.
I would be upset if I was them.
No, 100%.
Um, so because of that, I was like, "Huh, I should look at like Swedish death cleaning real quick and just get like a quick comparison on how because everybody's talking about Swedish death cleaning and it's such a catchy name that I'm like, what is this? This is so interesting. And they are very different. This was also started by a woman, and I'm not trying to genderize this stuff, but it does seem very
There's
like
something about
very
this.
clear.
Yeah.
Also started by a woman. And she basically just wanted to think about her heirs, like her kids, in regard to her
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And so the idea is you go through every single thing you own and you think, and you don't have to be old to do this, but you think
But it
like, what?
helps.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched people on YouTube who are young and they're like, oh, that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
But you ask yourself, would somebody really want this after you die? Or are you burdening them with getting rid of it? And
Yeah.
yeah, and so and then you also continue on by asking yourself what life would be like living with this thing before you buy
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
it kind of it's supposed to help you stop buying a bunch of shit too.
Yeah.
And the woman who started it, her name is Margareta Magnuson, and she says there's no rush. The more time you spend going through your belongings, the easier it will get. The article says it's a reflection, not a weekend affair. And her readers often just think on one object a day, and then soon everything's either gone, given away, or kept. So the Buy Nothing Project, Swedish Death Cleaning, and even Marie Kondo are much more chill in their approach. And they're also, in my opinion, more outwardly focused. So on their community, on their loved ones, on the environment, rather than inward and on your personal space, which I much prefer the outward one.
Yeah. The communal view.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that I just had to talk about that because it's like it doesn't even that's not even really like a sustainability thing. It's just like this is what's out there and I had to just get it off my chest
Yeah.
because I was gonna
I
lose my freaking mind.
I think
But
that's
it
fair.
is. I think it is related to sustainability
Well, it
because
is. Yeah.
I
I mean,
think
in
they
terms
they in their minds probably think that they're being more sustainable, but we're gonna get into like why they might not be.
uh,
So real quick, does minimalism work? That's something
okay.
I can't say that definitively because it's personal and it can help people become more intentional about the items they keep, buy, and consume. That
Right, but
is true.
yeah, but that's not quantifiable
Exactly.
on
And
like
it
a
just
broad scale.
really,
Yeah.
who the hell knows, right?
Yeah.
Because it can also be a trend that people try on for a month and then forget about,
Right.
which I think is probably more common than
Yeah.
people who are getting down to like one piece of furniture per room.
Right. That
Um,
doesn't sound like I mean, from a different definition of sustainable, that doesn't sound sustainable to me. So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, some people said it is. I don't know.
okay.
So it also could be a chicken and egg scenario. So I looked into a little bit about hoarding disorder and like stress and clutter.
Yeah.
So studies show that clutter can induce stress, but perhaps stress also induces clutter.
I live that. Yes.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
So, the International Journal of Cognitive Therapy says that there is a potential link between traumatic life events and hoarding disorder. Obviously, that's
Oh my
on the more
gosh.
extreme end, but I think, all of us can relate. And the next one's really interesting because I'm like, this is me, this is my life. Environment and Behavior had a study about office clutter, and they said the most emotionally and physically drained employees are the most likely to build up office clutter.
I buy it. I mean,
Yes,
just
I've
yeah.
been there.
Well, and it's just because you don't have the energy to get rid of shit. It's not like
Exactly.
you're not intentionally hoarding. It's just like I don't have the bandwidth to decide if I need this or not, or to just throw away my mail, or like the worse off my mental state is, the harder it is for me to clean up after myself.
Oh,
Period.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like that's a sign of just a very stressed out society. So
Yeah.
maybe it's and the NIH study that I looked at says approximately 2/3 of individuals with hoarding disorder meet criteria for comorbid mood or anxiety disorder.
I buy it.
Yeah, so it's like not necess yes, it is true that clutter can cause stress, but
Stress can.
how much have we thought about the opposite, right?
Right. It's not. And that makes perfect sense to me. I feel like you just said something that I've always thought is that the people that I have known were hoarders were people who were clinically depressed,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
and not getting help.
Yeah, and giving these folks 16 rules to live by and saying throw out all your shit and then buy less is not going to be effective.
No, that is not mental health. That is not therapy. That is
Yeah.
not
So
treatment.
it's like maybe the stuff, which is very much the minimalist, they're figuring out the stuff, but like maybe the stuff isn't the problem. Maybe it's the society. And
Yeah, it's a
I've
symptom. Yeah.
heard like I think I've heard that hoarding disorders getting worse where especially in the older generation,
Yes.
there's like people are hurting themselves and having to call I don't know,
Yes.
it's kind of scary.
Tripping over stuff. I mean, I've had people I know with close family members, and I mean, we had one great aunt, not my great aunt, but a friend of mine who looked like she was coming out of her house in a normal way, and when she passed away, it was like stacks of newspapers and things that you had to get around in the house, and her toilet had stopped working, and she was pooping in plastic bags and keeping it in the shower
Oh my god.
because she was too embarrassed to let somebody in to fix her toilet,
Oh my god, that's so
and
sad.
no one knew. She's living in squalor. And
That is
I've had
so
several
sad.
friends' parents who, yeah, it's just,
Yeah, I mean, I grew up around hoarding situations and it is like very, 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 very stressful.
yeah, yeah.
And okay, leading right into it, why do we hate hoarding so much? I found this because it really is like there's a show Hoarders. It's like a
I know there's so much public shame around it.
yes. So JSTOR Daily, I guess they have sort of this article thing, but
Yeah.
they say this was really interesting because they said that several scholars have suggested that hoarding hits a little too close to home, and that's why we
We all
hate it so
feel it.
much.
Yeah.
So there's a quote, we all do daily battle against an excess of stuff. It flows into our homes, brought by FedEx and the US Postal Service, snagged on Amazon, Facebook Marketplace, free cycle, or a yard sale, inherited or handed down. It piles up in closets, basements, and garages. And like, this is so true and it's so personal for me because I grew up around it and I like have to find a way to balance the uncontrolled intake of stuff versus an obsession with being clutter free. Like there's
Yes.
got to be some balance
It's
there.
not a binary. Yeah, because there is something very sick about it. It's kind of like binge eating versus anorexia.
I know there are a lot of parallels.
Yeah, it's the same coin, right? It's two sides of the same coin. It's this discomfort with our lifestyle or our
Excess of any
loneliness.
sort, yeah.
Yeah. Um, or this lack of control.
Yes.
And it can be, sometimes you fix it by buying more stuff. And
Mhm.
sometimes you fix it by getting rid of everything.
Yes.
And it's the same, it's the issue is the sitting with this, I have no control over climate change. I have no control over the
Mhm.
political situation. I have no control over COVID-19. I have no
Mhm.
control over mass shooters coming into public, like all these things are wildfires, all this news we get all the time about our lives. And it's like two ways to fix it. I can either buy everything I possibly can, or I can get rid of everything. It's like the
Yep.
same impulse. That's so
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, and I definitely struggle with it, so
100%. I
I
mean,
think
retail
we all
therapy
do.
is huge for me. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so so the next question, is minimalism affordable?
Okay, this is funny. It should be, right? Like you think.
Right? And actually, this is one area where I do think it shines,
Okay.
because state the obvious, buying less stuff should save you a lot of money.
Yeah, it should.
And so the stuff you do buy might be more expensive because the idea is to buy better and buy,
Less, right?
less. But over time that would discount a lot of people from being able to even
Yeah.
take part in minimalism because they're like, "I can't afford a $200 pair of jeans."
Oh my God, yeah.
So, in theory, if you can afford it, your stuff is more durable and it will last longer than cheapo items, but for some people, that's just off the
Well, it's the same
table.
with fast fashion, and I realized that
Yes.
after, and I want to apologize to people. Like, sometimes you just can't afford anything but the $2 shirt at
Right.
Target, and I totally get that. And it is like we have all these things about, yeah, you should buy more expensive stuff less often, but unless you have that $200 up front,
Yes.
you can't.
Mhm.
You can't do bulk food shopping. You can't do
Yeah,
the
we're not out here.
sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not, like, saying, "Oh, just put it on a credit card or something." Like,
Right.
that's
Build
not.
up. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
totally, because I have the same thing. I have like junk furniture, and it's because I couldn't afford
Mhm.
nice stuff, and I'm going to have to get rid of it sooner, but it's just like I just didn't have the scratch.
Yes.
So I think I talked about that a little bit too privileged when I talked about fast fashion. Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't buy the more expensive stuff. And,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I was talking about the excessive need to buy too much, though. That's the
Right.
issue for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think trends are the big thing.
Yeah.
So and plus, another thing about minimalism on YouTube is, like, a lot of people buy all the fancy organizers, and so, like,
Yeah, that's my thing.
that's
Marie
just
Kondo sells more shit,
yeah,
like to
well, Marie
organize.
Kondo is actually pretty good about telling people to use boxes that they already have, but I
Okay.
think most people don't do it that way.
No.
But then you see YouTube and it's like, holy shit, like you're going to go out and buy 300, 400, 500 more dollars
Yeah.
worth of organizers.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. So
Yeah. Yeah.
In that sense, no, it's not more affordable. You don't need all those organizers, by the
No.
way, but
Yeah. I remember when I was like just out of college living with my first boyfriend and we were pretty poor, and I was like, I need to organize this stuff in the bathroom, and I took construction paper and I glued it on to like cardboard boxes and made organizers in our
yes,
bathroom for free, you know.
exactly. I love craft paper and some like little string, and
Yeah.
I make my own labels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it looks good.
Yeah. Good enough.
Good enough.
Nobody's coming in to photograph my home. Country living is not in my home.
Exactly. Hopefully they never will be. Okay.
I hope
Uh,
not.
all right. So now let's get into the meat of it, right? So
Yeah.
is minimalism eco-friendlier? Because there is no such thing as eco-friendly. Anything you do is going to be
Right.
destructive in some
Existing
way.
on this planet is destructive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which,
Sorry.
yeah. And
Just
that's the
add that to
same.
your list of stressors that makes you buy more stuff.
Yeah. No. But
No.
eco-friendlier, there are things that you can do to be much friendlier. So
Okay.
is it? Not necessarily. Okay, I read this really good blog by The Plain Simple Life, and she says
Okay.
minimalists don't necessarily focus on being environmentally positive. They may
No.
focus more on living a simple life, which I think is what we've seen, with
Mm-hmm.
less clutter and less stress.
Yeah.
And then the minimalists themselves say, like I mentioned, they say you can donate, sell, recycle, trash your excess. Like they basically say, like, whatever you do, just get it out, right?
Yeah.
And they also say being a minimalist doesn't mean you'll never buy anything new. It means you'll do so with intention. It also means you'll let go aggressively and deliberately. So this just reminds me of my Goodwill story about my pasta maker that I told earlier
Yes.
in this season, where I think I had been watching these YouTube videos and I felt rushed and pressured to make a perfectly clean house today, or it's not
Yeah.
worth bothering. And so I took my pasta maker to Goodwill, and now it's in two parts in a landfill. Like, that much is
Yeah.
obvious. That's just obvious to me that that's where it went. So I mean, ideally, you would buy less stuff, right? But if you're also anti-buy nothing movement, then I'm not really sure how that works out.
Right. Right.
So I do have some recommendations going forward. But first, I want to get into my granola rating.
Okay. Okay.
So, so I had to rate a specific thing. So I'm rating the minimalists. Uh, how would you describe it? Their
Movement, their
yes, sure.
theory, their
Their
system,
movement.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm rating them on their sustainability. Our granola rating is 1 through 5. 1 is soggy granola, which is gross. 5 is
Okay.
break your tooth off, super, super crunchy granola, which is delicious.
Right.
So, the minimalists themselves, I am rating them a 2. 2 out
Okay.
of 5. And I'm trying
Okay.
to not be petty. Is that petty?
No, because I think they're selling an idea, but they're from our standpoint, the sustainability isn't there, right? It's not
Yeah,
with it's an
that's not the
idea,
focus.
right? It's not with an eye towards eco-friendliness.
Right. It's really just like, get rid of your shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh, if you can't sell it in a week, this isn't them, but it's other people. If you can't, oh, actually, it might be. I don't remember. I did a lot of research,
You
but
it sounds like you read a lot, yeah.
yeah, if you can't sell it in a week, then just donate it or get rid of it. But it's like donating it to Goodwill is not necessarily the right move, which we have learned
Always,
through.
yeah,
Yeah.
trial and error.
Um,
I mean,
so
better than just throwing it away, probably, but
yeah,
often.
probably. Hopefully for my pasta maker, but we'll see.
I hope someone figured that out. I hope
I
someone is sitting somewhere
know.
in Baltimore right now using your pasta
I
maker.
know. I hope so. Um, I've learned a lot from that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so going forward, there is a minimalism that focuses on the environment, and that is called eco minimalism.
Okay. Ooh.
So the Plain Simple Life says eco-minimalism is a term used to describe someone who has adopted the simple, sustainable lifestyle of consuming only what they need. The idea is that by limiting your material possessions to things you actually use, you reduce the strain on the environment. And she says minimalism and eco-minimalism can go hand in hand, but many minimalists are also environmentalists, but not all of them have to be.
Okay.
So that's why I was so confused when I heard all this, when I listened to that podcast episode, because I was like, but I thought people cared about the earth.
Right.
So there are a lot of minimalists who do, but I don't. And I'm not saying these two dudes don't care about the earth. I'm just saying it is not their focus. It's sort of like an offshoot perk is how they talk about it,
Okay.
which is very common with other things too, but companies do it all the time.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Shelbisley on YouTube. Yeah, she spells her name in a hard way to say, but she talks about decluttering sustainably. She has one video about decluttering sustainably. It was really good. She had I think 50 ideas, and I wrote down 15, but it's like I don't even know if I can get through all those because it's so many. But
Yeah.
there's sell or list as many things as you can. Her idea was that if people are buying stuff, or even if they're going out of their way to get it for free, they're probably going to value it a lot more. And I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to friends and family who actually want it. Use buy nothing groups or free cycle. eBay has local listings and you can list stuff for free or you can try to sell it.
Ooh.
You can host.
Craigslist too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You can host a swap party or have a moving sale or give your formal wear to nonprofits. There are specific places that you can give bras or towels. Like towels can go to local animal shelters if they need them.
Yep.
Backpacks can go to Give a Kid a Backpack. Mascara can go to Wands for Wildlife. I didn't
Oh
know that.
yes. That's it. They clean ducks and stuff with them, right?
Yes, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And it goes on and on. The list is huge and it's a really comprehensive list. But my God, is that a lot of work?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's man, I feel like that'd be a full-time job.
Yeah.
And not to mention, none of that melds with the minimalists, right? So
No. Yeah.
everything, one of the rules for the minimalists, everything in its place. But what if its place is in a pile in the trunk of your car until you finally remember to take it to the little free library?
Right. Yeah.
Or it just has to sit there until you can manage to take it to wherever.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I have definitely had bags of clothing in my trunk for months to take it
yes,
to. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And or even just storing something until your friend can pick it up a month later or whatever. That doesn't go with minimalism in the minimalist sense at all.
No.
So yeah. And also my lord, is that a lot of time and resources.
Oh, 100%.
So I love the ideas, but I feel like we need, Ridwell is a really good solution, I think.
Yeah.
But that's more for trash. So it's more
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. I don't know. They probably do stuff like Wands for Wildlife. Mascara is a trash thing, but
Yeah.
we need another Ridwell-like company that handles backpacks to give a kid a
Yeah.
backpack and
Yeah.
takes the towels to the local animal shelter, that type of thing.
Yeah. That's a thing. I mean, maybe that's a business idea somebody here can listen to. It's like your
Yes.
charity donation.
Yeah, because you can do bulk Salvation Army or whatever, but a lot of times I think it's way more effective if you give a mascara
Directly to a
wand to
charity.
a place
Yes.
that's definitely you can't give an old mascara wand to a Salvation Army.
No.
So
Gross. Yeah. That's trash. Yeah. But
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have. But I know it was a lot. I was really trying to get it in. So
well, I think I think we had some really important philosophical conversations about
yes.
consumerism in general, which is what this whole season has been about, is waste, and
Yes.
consumerism is what creates waste. So
Mm-hmm.
the psychological effects of consumerism and
yes. And it's just really interesting because so many people in the world think minimalism is the solution. And it's well, maybe it's more complicated than that.
Yeah. No, totally. Well,
Oh
that was
boy.
really great. Yeah.
But look up eco-minimalism because it's
Yeah, it
pretty
sounds
interesting.
really promising.
It sounds like it just sounds like a really nice way to live.
Yeah.
And that makes me way more inspired than just doing it for myself
Yeah.
personally.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm so glad because I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to Kat about this.
I mean, it made me download a new sound effect, so that's
I love it so much.
awesome. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. I can't believe I got it in under an hour.
Yeah. Well, I just realized this is the last episode of the season.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Holy crap.
So, wow. Yeah, it's a good. I mean, although I do think we should do a bonus episode on why are landfills bad? Because that's something that came up to me over and over in this is,
yeah,
like, why are they bad?
Yes.
So that might be something we do a bonus episode on.
I love it. Yeah, because like when I found out about composting and why it's better, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, we are going to take a month off. So this will air September 19th. Are we going to take 2 weeks or a month? What do you think?
A month, yeah. A month. And then,
okay.
So that'll be October 17th we'll be back before spooky season. We should do something spooky.
I was thinking about that. So our next season 3 is supposed to be on personal items.
Mm-hmm.
So we might do a Halloween makeup one.
Okay. Yeah, we'll
or Halloween costumes maybe.
Yeah. That would be a good one. Yeah. Yes, I love it.
Okay. So we'll do that. But yeah, so yeah, we're going to be talking about feminine products. Speaking of being on your period, that's a big one that I'm really interested in. Reusable, mostly period panties. So,
yes,
and menstrual cups. But I'm really interested in the effects they have on things. But yeah, so we'll be back. Well, maybe we'll see about this bonus episode. It might be just a 20-minute Why Are Landfills Bad that we put out in the next couple of weeks. But thank you for listening to us for season 2. I can't believe we made it through 20. We're on. This is episode 24.
Whoa!
Not counting mini episodes, and
that is really exciting.
I think I'm really proud of us. Good job, Tiff.
Me too. Yay! Amazing. Yeah. So we'll be back. October 17th.
Yeah. And we'll go into the holidays. So this will be fun.
Can't wait.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of, I guess, when this airs, there'll be 2 days left of summer. And then we're off into the quote unquote fall, although it's still going to be 100 degrees here in Austin. We just, today is August 23rd here that we're recording this. We just broke yesterday. It didn't get up to 100 for the first time in 44 days.
Oh my God. I can't even, my brain can't handle that.
It was 100 degrees or more. It was like 108 for a lot of those days. So
wow,
44 days of that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So hopefully by the time we air this again, it's like a nice balmy 75.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll be heaven.
Yeah. But
maybe open a window.
Yeah, open it. Yeah. Walk to my car without dying.
Right.
But this is why we do this,
Exactly.
Call the corporations that are.
This is real.
Ruining our lives. Yeah. It's great that we do individual contributions. And I think we discovered this season that the biggest things you can do are quit buying clothes and quit wasting food. Those are
and
huge.
using plastic.
Those are like the 3 biggest things that you can do. Put some mindfulness into and help on an individual level. But the rest of the time, we've got to get corporations to quit using plastic. And producing
which
fast
is
fashion.
A challenge.
Yeah. So thank you for
listening. But we can do
it. Yeah. Maybe we'll have a season on local action or something.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of what can you actually do? To influence in a bigger way than just
than just
we are totally going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More intention. So well, cool. Thank you for listening to us. Please rate us, like us, download us, subscribe. We don't know. Write us an email.
Follow.
Yeah.
Review. Yeah.
Lots of imperative verbs there.
All right. We are excited for next season and have a good month off.
Yeah. You also. Thanks, Tiff.
Okay. Bye.